So I would like to talk about remorse today. And I notice that I have resistance. And I think that's a really important element of remorse, is usually we have resistance to expressing remorse or apologize, what can be known as apologizing or seeking forgiveness or righting a wrong. So let's say we've hurt somebody. So these varying degrees of hurting somebody, from our neighbor or somebody who we don't interact with that much with, or a person in the supermarket or something like that, all the way up to our intimate others. So, and there's the same basic, well, there's basic premises to all of them, but there are differences. Like with say in the grocery store, we bump into somebody. We're not going to do a mea culpa of, oh, I was not paying attention, and oh, I'm so self-consumed. We're not going to go on and on about these things with the person in the supermarket. We're going to acknowledge to this other person, I see you, I had an impact on you, and I want to take responsibility for that. And in an instant, we want to say, and you matter to me. I bumped into you. So it's not, oh, I'm sorry. But we do want to be able to look at the person and say, hey, sorry about that, with sincerity. So the commonality of all of this with remorse and asking for forgiveness, what's known as apologizing, one of the common themes, the big one, is that the other person feels that we care about them and the impact our action, our words, a behavior has had on that person. So one of the first things that's really important is staying with ourselves. It's not leaving ourselves and going to that other person, whether it's an intimate loved one, about infidelity, which I'll go on and more about in another video. But right, all the biggies where we've really hurt somebody pretty badly, to the lesser degrees of, I did something I don't feel crazy about, or I bumped into somebody, or I said something crummy or hurtful. So right, all the range of all these things is the crux of all of these, all of them, from the minor to the major, is being with ourselves, with this other person, and having the experience of them feeling that we care, that we see them, that they matter to us, and whether it's an instant or longer, I care, and I want you to know I care, and then we move on. Now, of course, there's varying degrees of talking more and talking less, but what I want to convey here that feels so important, that is a big mistake people make, is we stay consumed with ourselves, explaining ourselves, talking about the circumstances, and it's all about us. Well, I was late, I was busy, I was having a crummy day. That's all about us. And as far as the impact on the other person, it's actually going to make things worse. And the person's not going to feel understood. They're going to be like, this is more and more and more about you. So we really want that fine balance of maybe explaining ourselves. There is an element sometimes. In the supermarket, we bumped into somebody, not so much. We don't need to explain what we're doing. We need a brief, like, oh, wow, sorry. Varying degrees. And that's where the crux of this, and I'm going to be talking more and more about this in more videos, is our connection with ourselves in relationship with other humans. And that's crucial, because relationships are probably the most important thing in life, really. First and foremost is our relationship with ourselves, and then all others. And that feels really important in this moment to talk about. So again, we've wronged somebody, varying degrees. And going back to how I started with resistance, noticing a part or parts who's having resistance. Like, so before this video, I was feeling resistance to this. So I took a moment, I'm taking a moment now to slow down, bring my parts in, because there's shame. There's parts who feel ashamed. bad, right? And then we defend against that. There's a whole bunch of things. So to be able to stay with the vulnerability, as I share my experience, I've wronged many people. I've done a lot of shitty things. I've done crappy things. I say stuff. I'm really outspoken. I'm apologizing on a regular basis. So, and sincerely, and because it frees me, it frees that other person, and it deepens our experience of being humans together. Repair. And that's the opportunity here. One of the big ones is to repair with each other, to really have a good repair. Sometimes we need to talk more with the person and be able to show up, which again, I'll talk more about these things, how to really stay with ourselves when we need to show up for hard conversations, which I'll talk about in another video. But in this moment, I really want to plant seeds for how we can have remorse with other humans. So what remorse looks like. I'm not going to go into the definition of remorse, but remorse is feeling bad. Like I feel bad about something I've done. I feel bad. I'm having feelings about the impact of my actions on you, other person. And I want you to know that. It's really important in this human. We're seeing it in the world with all over the place, where people taking responsibility for their actions. It can be known as an apology. It can be known as a mea culpa, taking responsibility. I've done this. I'm taking responsibility for this action. And it seems to be a really important thing in relationships with each other, that if we want to truly repair with others, we need to be able to express remorse. Now, that doesn't mean tail between your legs. I'm the worst person. I'm going to collapse, because that's about us. And now we may have that experience with our parts. Oh, our shame. I'm the worst person. Oh my God. But that's not going to be helpful with this other person. But there is an element of it that is helpful. The other person does need to know that we feel bad. This has had an effect on me. So that fine art, and that goes back to what I was saying before about relationship with ourselves, that balance of being in relationship with others where I'm really taking this to heart. I'm really looking at my actions, what I've done, how I feel, the impact on you, and it affects me. And I want you to know I am affected and taking to heart what has happened. Now, what I need to share with you and what is my own process, right? And that can be relational, where the other person can say, I actually want to hear a little bit more about the impact of this on you. But that's real. I don't mean but, and that's relational, where we show up with this other person and we can say, how much do you want to know? How much do you want me to share with you about how much I'm taking this to heart? Some people need to know that you are taking this to therapy, or that you've engaged in therapy, or some wise other who you're seeking counsel from about this, that you're not just like, I feel really bad about this, and then you're dwelling in yourself. So that is a relational element of this, and how for us to show up with each other in this process of what I'm calling expressing remorse. So as I slow down and take a breath, that's more expressing, right? I'm not just talking, I'm taking a moment to really take this in, how important this topic is and how important people are to me. And when I have a wrongdoing, when I overstep, I have a behavior that interferes or negatively impacts another person, even in this moment where I'm thinking of several, I'm not thinking, but I'm aware of several wrongdoings. So that's impacting how I'm sharing this with you all, and knowing that there's in the future, there's more. But the relationship with myself in this experience, humility, right? Oh, this humanness of us being together, me being connected with my humility in this human experience, this humility, this vulnerability. I make mistakes, I overstep. There's humility. And so we're going to be talking more about that in other videos I do. Humility is huge. So I'm going to end for now. You're welcome to email me, send any questions, anything you want me to elucidate. I would love to. I encourage you and welcome you to reach out to me. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye.